Dusk draped its somber cloak over the city, painting every corner in haunting shades of gray. Jason entered the barely lit office, the door creaking ominously in the suffocating silence. The air, thick and stifling, smelled of stale tobacco and old whiskey, with an underlying note of metallic blood that Jason had come to associate with Marco's office. He scanned the room. Shadows draped themselves over forgotten ledgers, and feeble rays of light fought their way through thick curtains to reveal Marco, seated like a phantom king behind a gargantuan mahogany desk. The years had been ruthless to Marco, his once sharp features now drowned under the weight of countless secrets and sins. To Jason, he had been more specter than man for quite some time. Without looking up, Marco's voice crawled out from between his parched lips, a voice as dry and cracking as old parchment. "The client you thought you laid to rest 2 weeks ago? He's come back from the shadows." Jason's heart stumbled. "That can't be. I saw his light extinguished with my own eyes." In a deliberate motion, Marco brought forth a tablet, swiping to reveal a grainy security footage. The chill it brought was deeper than the grave. There was Mr. Mavin, his deathly pallor making him look like a ghost. Yet he moved with a vivacity that betrayed his supposed fate. "You may be a master at your craft," Marco murmured, the menace palpable in his tone, "but shadows, it seems, have a way of clinging to life." Jason's mouth went dry. The dread that filled the room was almost tangible, a black fog that threatened to choke him. "Every step he takes, every breath mocks our organization. Your reputation, our reputation is on the verge of crumbling." Jason's fists clenched, the leather of his gloves squeaking under the pressure. "It won't happen again," he whispered, voice tremulous with a mix of fear and determination. Marco leaned forward, the feeble light catching the cruel glint in his eyes. "Make sure of it, because if you don't, you'll find out just how much deeper the shadows in this city can get." As Jason left the office, he felt an oppressive weight on his shoulders. This wasn't just another job. It was a descent into a nightmare, and he had no choice but to confront the lurking terror head-on. In the inky abyss of the night, Jason found himself lurking in the twisted shadows outside Mr. Maven's antiquated residence. The building itself, covered in ivy and rot, bore an oppressive atmosphere, as if the very walls whispered secrets of ancient malevolence. It wasn't just a home, but a monument to dread. And tonight, Jason would make it a pyre. His plan was haunting in its simplicity, designed to obliterate even the slightest chance of Mr. Maven's return. Fire, after all, was a cleanser, a force both destructive and purifying. He'd turned Mr. Maven to ash, letting the inferno consume what dark magic kept the man alive. As the witching hour approached, a silhouette, ghastly in its familiarity, meandered into the decrepit mansion. Jason's heart, a steady metronome of dread, accelerated. He moved with ghostly stealth, drenching the residence in gasoline, each splash echoing like a whispered curse. With bated breath, he struck his lighter. The tiny spark roared into a monstrous blaze, greedily feasting on the old timbers. He retreated, watching the horrifying beauty of destruction unfold. The roaring flame seemed to dance and scream, creating a symphony of annihilation. But then a sound more bone-chilling than any scream echoed across the fiery abyss. From the heart of the blaze, a figure wreathed in flame burst forth. It was Maven, his skin searing, peeling, bubbling, and yet his eyes, a sickly shade of green, pierced the night with ungodly vigor. Like a creature from the darkest recesses of folklore, Maven lunged with a speed that defied nature. Jason, caught in a dance of death, parried, dodged, and struggled. Every inch of Maven screamed malevolence. His very presence was an affront to life itself. With adrenaline-fueled desperation, Jason spotted his chance. A jagged, rusted pipe discarded by time. With all his might, he thrust it forward, impaling Maven. The behemoth's momentum carried both of them crashing into a nearby decayed wall. For a heartbeat, the world was silent. Jason, drenched in sweat and blood, felt the oppressive weight of the night bear down on him. He collapsed, the cries of the still raging fire lulling him into a tortured unconsciousness. When dawn's first melancholic light breached the horizon, Jason awoke, every fiber of his being screaming in agony. Drawing on reserves he didn't know he had, he stumbled home, each step a testament to his will to survive. Once inside, he tended to his injuries, feeling the cruel sting of every cut and burn. Finally, in sheer exhaustion, he surrendered to the dark embrace of sleep, tormented by the horrors he had witnessed. The oppressive darkness of the room was only slightly lifted by the pale bluish glow emanating from Jason's phone screen. As consciousness slowly seeped into him, a sharp buzz shattered the stillness. His fingers, trembling from last night's ordeal, hesitated before they finally reached for the device. The moment he registered the image on the screen, a cold vice gripped his heart, squeezing it with paralyzing force. It was him, Mr. Maven, impossibly alive, seated in his sterile cubicle, as if the inferno of the previous night was merely a twisted dream. But it was the smirk, that maddening curl of the lips, that truly clawed at Jason's sanity. Beneath the photo, words dripped with malevolence. Do the job right. The room seemed to close in on him, walls pulsating like the insides of some great beast, ready to devour him whole. Marco's voice, now a sinister whisper, crept into his ears. Your reputation is on the line. The sentence looped, distorted, growing louder and more menacing with each repetition. Jason's breath grew ragged. His gaze was transfixed on the image, the room around him blurring, shadows stretching and contorting. This couldn't be real. He had seen Mr. Maven, engulfed by flames, had felt the weight of his malevolent being as he pinned him down. He was dead. He had to be dead. But the reality, or the cruel mimicry of it, gnawed at him. Jason's grip on the edges of sanity began to fray, each thread snapping louder than the last. The weight of his failures, the impossibility of Maven's existence, and the looming threat to his own life merged into a cacophony of dread. And then, quite suddenly, it all became too much. A dam inside him burst, and a manic laughter bubbled up, spilling forth in jagged, echoing peals. It started low, a rumbling chuckle, but quickly spiraled into hysterical cackling. Shadows danced around him, joining in the macabre symphony of mirth. His laughter filled the room, reverberating with madness, bouncing off the walls in a never-ending loop, until it slowly morphed into something darker, a sobbing wail of despair. The weight of the night's events crushed him, and Jason felt himself unraveling, adrift in a sea of endless darkness, where reality and nightmares were indistinguishable.